Shots in the Dark contains graphic depictions of events that may not be suitable for all listeners. We encourage all of our listeners to be open-minded and engage in dialogue with us through any of our social media accounts or email. I don't care if people steal shit, just not my dog.
It'll be like Taken, but the dog version.
Liam Neeson voice, I will find you, and I will kill you.
Hi, and welcome to Shots in the Dark podcast. I'm Whitney.
And I'm Ty.
We switched it again.
We did.
Wait, do we always switch it when we do sober specials? That's a thing I was thinking about earlier.
When we do sober... Oh, God, maybe we do.
Maybe we do it on accident.
So, you know how I was a little bit late today?
Yeah.
I didn't tell you why I was late.
No, you didn't. What's his face?
I was late because I broke down and invested in a copy of Skyrim.
Oh, killer. Yeah, so you had to play.
I was like...
I'm surprised you made it at all because I would still be at home. I am at home, but... You could have been like, yeah, I'm going to show up at 8, and I would have been like, why, what's up? Been like, well, Skyrim.
I think I figured out, though, that it's a good idea for me to only play that when I have somewhere to be later. That way I have something that forces me to pull myself away.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because I got kind of sucked into it, and I think I was playing Skyrim for like 3 hours.
Well, I told you, when we moved in, I found out that I had a copy of it for a game console I've never owned, so I'm pretty sure I stole it from X. Whoopsie-doopsie. I didn't mean to, but maybe I did it out of spite. Not sure. I don't know.
Shit happens.
You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes things get jumbly when you live with people. I think I have an Xbox copy of it, too. No Xbox. Albeit I did purchase that Xbox for her, so...
I have an Xbox One copy, because I used to have an Xbox One.
Yeah.
And then my ex took it in the divorce, so now it truly is an Xbox.
Yeah, it sure is. But when we moved in here, I told Greg, I was like, oh, sweet, I didn't know I had a copy of this. And he was like, oh, it's not backward compatible anymore. And I said, oh, probably a better thing, because I will never leave the couch, ever. You'll be like, Whitney, can you pay rent? And I'm like, nope, I haven't been working 6 months. Just been playing Skyrim. What was that shirt that you have?
Oh, yeah, I've got a tank top that has like the logo from Straight Outta Compton on it, but it says Straight Outta Tamriel.
Yeah, that's right.
And I thought it was so funny and so, like, cute when I bought it, and now I think I've only ever had, like, 1 or 2 people be like, oh, hey, that's great. And everyone else is like, I'm sorry, what does that say? I don't get it.
I was driving by a car the other day that had a Dragonborn sigil on the back of it, and I took a picture of it, and I forgot to send it to you.
Oh, kind of like how I saw the car that had the sloth in the window, and I sent it to you.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so that rugby thing this weekend, because it's the 15th anniversary of the club being in existence, they decided to make it like a quinceañera.
Oh, fun. I love it.
Yeah, some of the girls actually wore their quinceañera dresses. She was like, I was like, you still fit in that. That's amazing for you, you monster.
Yeah, I could not fit into something that I wore when I was 15. There's no way.
No.
I'd be muffin topping all over the place.
I wouldn't even be able to close the pants.
I mean, in all fairness, samesies.
Yeah. It would be horrific. I'm pretty sure I'd come in strolling in like a monster. And some of the girls wore their wedding dresses. My friend, because she's extra as hell, wore our colors are orange and green. Wore a pumpkin orange, back corseted lace up, giant poof like prom dress with a green sash on it. But we laced her into it, and she's like, "It's okay. It's okay if it's tight." And I was like, "Well, we're going to be sitting down at some point in time today. Like, you need to do that." And it wouldn't have been so bad if there wasn't that stupid panel that they have in like prom dresses in the back of it.
Yeah.
If it didn't have the panel, we could have tied it however we wanted to tie it, and she would have been fine. But we tied it pretty tight, and like, so it's me and another girl like pulling.
Like
everything.
With your foot on her back.
Well, to be fair, I did do that. We go to get in the cars to go, and she's like, "Oh no, I think I have to lay down. I don't know if I could just sit." I was like, "Oh, no. She has a Mini Cooper." And I was like, so here's the question. Do you want to just come in my car, and then we could, like, kind of bevel it so you're, like, flatter than a regular car seat, and you don't have to, like, head first dive into the back of your car and, like, have your legs held up for a half-hour drive. I don't know, 15 minutes into the drive, she's full laying down in this gigantic dress. Her crown, because of course she has a crown,
of course,
is sliding across my dashboard because I'm nervous that it's going to get lost if it goes somewhere else. And she's just laying back and staring at the ceiling of my car, and she's like, "What is that?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Is that a sloth?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I forget it's in there." And so my friend, like, people that haven't gotten into my car before and aren't used to it, when it touches their head, they generally start panicking because it's soft.
Yeah, because you have it attached to the oh shit bar, don't you?
Yeah, and I forget that it's there because obviously I'm not normally sitting in my own passenger seat.
Yeah.
And you're used to it now. So, you know, like, it's...
Yeah.
The people that are in my car normally don't ever even see it anymore. But I was just like, "Oh, yeah." She goes, "Okay." I was like, "Yeah, my sister gave it to me, and I didn't know where to put it, so I just put it there temporarily so I didn't lose it, and then it just stayed."
And now that's where it lives.
Yeah, now it sometimes pets people's heads when they get in the car. So, neither of us is drinking today. We have things to do tonight and tomorrow, like responsible adults.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. So we're just going to cheers with our super sweet coffee.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, you ready to hear about someone horrible?
Yeah, I'm ready. You said there was a trigger warning.
Yeah. So this is actually something that Leah, one of our wonderful humans that we talk to sometimes because she's lovely, was like, "I'm very interested to hear more about this person." And I was kind of on the edge about it a little bit because he is a fairly well-known person. He's technically a serial killer, but a lot of his crimes aren't super proven.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. So like I said, I mean, he is pretty well known, but I figure let's make an exception for someone who's lovely to us and we appreciate as a person.
Yeah, and I'm excited, and I probably, in all fairness, don't really know anything about it anyway, so let's find out.
This does involve some horrific sexual situations. I'm going to try and gloss over some of them, but I do have to do a descriptor of some of the things that were found in the areas that contributed to the evidence, and they're not super nice, so if you have any sort of concern that you might not feel okay about it, maybe skip to the second half or listen up until we get to him actually getting caught. As of 2006, there were roughly 3.5 million truckers over the road, so it makes sense that of those numbers, some have been behind many of the murders on the highway. That is not to say, obviously, that, like, everyone is a murderer that's a trucker. I know truckers.
Yeah.
I love the truckers. I know they are a bit off as humans, but so am I, you know? Like, I can't fault anyone for that. It is a job that has, or at least had, a relative anonymity, especially in the 80s, and especially after the Motor Carrier Act of 1980 deregulated trucking. Meaning, because there's a lot of need for the over-the-road freighting, the bar had for a while been lowered and criminal checks were not being done as stringently for independent companies. Because if there was some sort of conviction on the record, they oftentimes were, you know, shut away from jobs like most people are that have some sort of conviction. With tax incentives and stuff like that happening, and especially since independent companies were just trying to get more and more work to, you know, to fill the coffers, they started kind of taking everyone, and they didn't bother with as much of a background check.
Oh, no.
The companies often didn't care if their employee had a permanent address, and it started to make sense for a lot of people that truckers may be a danger in some occasions. Because, like I said, relative anonymity and possible criminal convictions.
I could see that.
So, with all that kind of background, I'm going to tell you about Robert Ben Rhodes, the truck stop killer. Appropriate name for someone who's over the road. He's a piece of shit. It's hard to find some, like, actual case documents on this. I've watched a documentary that's from FBI files, and I've read as much information as I can, including newspaper clippings, about when all of this kind of was going down.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really, like, a ton of information about his past, which we obviously run into a lot, and not, like, a crazy amount of information happening in the middle of all of this either. So Robert Ben Rhodes was born November 22nd, in 1945 in Council Bluffs, Iowa. He was raised by his mother mostly because his father was a soldier stationed in West Germany. Until Rhodes was in elementary school, his father was out of the country. When he returned, he became a firefighter. Rhodes had led a normal kind of life in his younger years, but in an article I read, it said that he had a, quote, unspecified social problem or problems, but they don't go into what it was. Despite being an active participant in extracurricular activities, including football, wrestling, choir, and a French club, he didn't seem to have like a ton of friends. But once again, that I think is a lot of conjecture from people that are maybe taking his current personality into account. He was arrested at 16 for tampering with a vehicle and again for fighting publicly at 17. He had joined the Marines shortly after his graduation, and during that same year, his father was arrested for molesting a 12-year-old girl and subsequently killing himself while awaiting trial.
Oh, jeez.
Mm-hmm. Only a few years later, he was dishonorably discharged from the military for his connection with a robbery while he was in service. Sometime in the late 60s, he started college and then had dropped out with the intent to join a law enforcement agency, but was rejected for probably being arrested several times in his youth and getting booted from the military for being part of a robbery. I don't know. Maybe they don't love when police officers
are criminals.
It's weird how that happens. It's so really like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, it's really weird. So he like chose two things that are typically very structured and like there's an order to things. Mm-hmm. It's like, can you just not be a criminal and maybe you could actually do these things?
Right. But also you and I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the podcast, but we talk about a lot how one of the commonalities between especially male serial killers or violent crime offenders, they have that weird structural thing. So like the military background, or some cases police officers, or things like that, where there's a stringent, very regimented schedule. Mm-hmm. And then when they're not on that schedule, things tend to go a bit willy-nilly, I guess.
Well, and that even follows into, and it's, I love talking about things that I don't know everything about, but I'm gonna go for it. Because aren't there, like, there's organized killers and unorganized killers? Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's interesting. I guess I wonder maybe if the organized killers tend to be the ones that want more structure. That's worth looking into.
Yeah, let's look into that. That's an interesting thought.
We just got really deep.
That's really interesting. I really, really want to know. In the next 10 years, he married 3 times and had a son with his first wife. He had found work throughout this time in stores, supermarkets, warehouses, and restaurants before eventually becoming a long-haul trucker. In the 80s, he discovered and became part of the BDSM community, along with his third wife, Deborah. He soon started going by a nickname, Whips and Chains.
That sounds like 2 nicknames.
Right? Also, that's a bad nickname, friend.
Yeah, and I just kind of feel like at least combine them together to make one, like, formal name, like Whips McChains.
Oh my gosh, that's so silly. Allegedly, Deborah didn't want to participate, and it was at this time that Rhodes had verbally, physically, and sexually abused her. He even went far enough to have purchased a male sex slave for her, with whom she refused to see. He and she obviously differ on this point, where she's like, I didn't want to be part of this community, and he kind of made me, and he was like, no, she's totally into it. Which also kind of feeds into his narratives later when it comes to things about his crimes.
Whips and Chains. It's so stupid.
It's so stupid.
It's like, what'd you do? Did you put that into, like, a name generator online? Like, on MySpace or something? Like, what'd you do?
It was in the 80s. What was it for? That Live Journal, also 90s.
You know, I fast-forwarded to 2006. I think because we were talking about it at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So putting it into perspective again. Here we go.
He was putting up...
Yeah, those, like, VHS dating tapes and everything.
Oh, my goodness. So a man that was driving the highway was startled to see a young girl who looked to be bruised and bleeding running down the road, trying to flag down a car. He stopped, and Nicole Tuttle, who at the time was 18, got in, and she was hysterical, because generally people don't run bruised and bleeding down a highway.
Yeah.
So she was driven to the Houston police. Nicole had told the police that she had been kidnapped from California, where she was hitchhiking, about a week prior and held